Claire Edwards, and you're listening to Authentic Leadership, a series of conversations, insights and inspirations with leaders who are real, raw and authentic. Today, I bring you a really practical and upbeat conversation with Nikki Beaumont, CEO of recruitment specialists Beaumont People. Our topic of conversation is leading people before profit and how a placing people first culture creates both the business and people's success. Enjoy! Nikki and I are connected through one of my previous podcast guests, Yvonne Kelly, and we finally got to meet face-to-face at a recent conference. And oh, how good it was to be back face-to-face. And at that conference, Nikki shared that her company, Beaumont People, which is a multi-award-winning recruitment company, chose a 4-day work week back in 2020, well before any lockdown. And that got me curious about her company, their culture, and Nikki's leadership style. So when I approached Nikki to be in conversation for the podcast, I sort of said, I'm really interested in an area of leadership that you're super passionate about. She just instantly said, yep, I know what it is. It's leading people before profit. And that is the topic of our conversation today. So, Nikki, a very, very warm welcome to Authentic Leadership.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you here. Now, on this grey and drizzly and rainy day, before we actually delve into our topic, when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, I didn't have a clue where in this country you were based. So can you share with us a little bit about where in Australia you are and where you're based, who with? I believe that there are a number of non-human beings as well as humans. I'd just like to find out more.
You make it sound very intriguing, Claire, actually.
It does.
Thank you, yes. We live in Newrybar, or actually about three or 4 kilometres just out of Newrybar. Newrybar is in the Northern Rivers. For people that know Byron Bay, we're pretty much between Byron Bay, Ballina and Bangalore and the hinterland. They're just back from the coast. So smashing spot, very well known for a beautiful restaurant called Harvest. So people do know it for that. And to answer your second question, who do I live with? Well, there you go, yes.
I know it's a bit personal early on.
That's okay. I'm a pretty open kind of person. So I live with, to start with, my wonderful human partner, Drew, and our wonderful daughter, Maddie, who's currently 14. So that's our family here. But we do live on acreage. So we've got 120 acres here in the beautiful Northern Rivers. And at last count, we have approximately 94 animals. So, yes, that was 94 animals, of which that largely comprises, if we start from the most, is cattle. We're beef cattle. Property. We have many chickens and roosters. We have 3 alpacas, 3 horses, of which 2 are miniature horses, 2 donkeys, 2 cats, and a dog.
Wow! And I'm just thinking. I mean, you are the CEO of an extremely busy company. Don't tell me that you do the farming as well.
I don't. I actually like to, and when I get the chance to be out there doing what I can, I love to. And winter is a favourite time for me, Claire, because in winter we have log fires and we need to go out on the weekend and get the chainsaws out and chop up, falling down trees to help clear the land. And it's one of my favourite things. And for our wedding anniversary, we're not married, but we do celebrate an anniversary.
Yeah.
And just last year, I got a chainsaw as my gift, which really made me happy. But I don't generally work on the farm as often as I would love to. I do feed all the animals every morning, if I can, and walk the dog. But no, one day when I'm retired, I'll be able to spend more time on the farm. Yes.
How wonderful! And it sounds like you really are an early adopter because you got in with the tree change before everybody else, and you got in with the 4-day work week before everyone else. But we'll come back to that in a little bit because I'd like to sort of go back a little bit into, I know that your background has been in recruitment, and you were with one of the largest recruitment companies in the world before you started Beaumont People. So what I'm thinking about is when you decided to create your organization, from your experience with, can we name them, or should we just say the large recruitment company?
Look, I think it's fair to remember. I have a lot of respect for them. I work for Adecco and Manpower. Although Alfred Marks, as it was back in the day before Alfred Marks became Adecco, that's a name that some people would go, "Oh my gosh, Alfred Marks."
I've just done that. I'd forgotten about Alfred Marks. Oh my goodness! So with all that experience, and you're creating your own organization, what were some of the conscious decisions you made? What did you say? Okay, this is an absolute must. I'm definitely taking that with me. Or this didn't work so well for me. What did you decide to do differently, and why?
Look, it's a great question, and I think that was actually one of my key reasons for wanting to start my own recruitment business. Was I actually wanted to do some things differently. And look, all respect to the companies that I worked for back in the day. We're talking about, like the 90s, the 80s and 90s even. So it was a long time ago, and things have changed a lot. And I certainly learned a lot, and I would not be who I am or where I am today if it wasn't for that experience that I had, with both organizations. I loved working for them both at the time. But there were certain things that, did frustrate me. And I wanted to do differently. And I vowed that I would do these things differently when eventually I had my own recruitment business, which, just to give you some context, I always knew I would have my own business. I am a born entrepreneur, and I have been since a small child. And over a glass of wine, I can share with you the kind of stories that my parents love to share of me as a child entrepreneur and some of the things I got up to. But, we probably don't have time for that. But I was always going to start my own recruitment business at some point, regardless of how much I loved or didn't love some of the things that happened in those bigger organizations. But the things that I did choose to do differently, and in hindsight, they're big organizations, and I still now go, how do you run and manage some of those big organizations? It's enough of a job running mine, and mine's quite small in the grand scheme of things. But I think the things that I was very conscious of were people-centered decisions, and maybe in my role with them at that time, it was, well, what actually affects me and what affected me in my role as a leader and my team. They were the things I wanted to do differently, because they're the things that affected me at that time. So I mean, there were things like placing people first. There were things around don't keep changing the goalposts on people. I felt that for myself and my team quite a lot. Things would happen at a corporate level, and there was obviously great reasons that the goalposts were changed, but they changed for me when maybe they weren't impacting us at that level. For example, when we went through tough times, absolute, salaries were frozen across the board. I remember that one particular time. And I understand the need to do that as an organization, but with no flexibility whatsoever, when I'd only recently had to take somebody on in my team and not been able to give her anywhere near the salary that she should have been on and deserved. And when it came to her first review, my hands were tied, and to a place where I actually, if I hadn't have been probably a fairly good leader myself at that time to hang on to that person and find other ways to keep her within my team, I would have lost her. It was just that lack of absolute flexibility when it comes to people, and only seeing things through one big corporate lens. I was frustrated with. I think other things that I can see now, and I saw looking back, was, we weren't really given often the tools that we really needed to be the best that we could be, and the support that we needed. They were big beasts, some of those big companies at that time as well. And as a new manager, I kind of fell into that role. Was I fully equipped? No, actually, I probably wasn't. What support did I get? Maybe the regional manager that I was working at with, throughout both of those experiences, didn't have the time to give me. And could I have been a better leader if I'd had the right support? Yes, I could. Probably a lot earlier in my time. There's an awful lot of things I could have learned. And other things, and this is a very recruitment related thing, but, my team at the time were doing so well, and I'm so proud of them, and they were really performing well. And I was based in Aylesbury. Anyone who knows the UK, not a very big place, Aylesbury. We're not talking the centre of London. But we were doing well, and, one of the most profitable branches around. We really were. But things like caps were put on people's earning potential. And I was like, why would you do that? Why would you do that to people? They're doing so well. What are you trying to say? Okay, you've been successful up to that point. Don't be any more successful, because we're not going to pay you for it if you are. Yeah. So there were things like that I took from that experience at that time and went, okay, and these are things that I want to take with me. And I made a decision at the very beginning of starting Beaumont, which was in 2001, to have a bonus policy, a commission policy that I would never change to the detriment of the people. So I would only ever change it to make it better. For people. And so far, I managed to have got there 21 years in. And I think I've done that so far. And I still hang on to that and go, I made that decision, I made that commitment, and I'm still doing it. And I actually have changed our policies quite a lot, but actually for the benefit of people, to make it better for them. I do believe, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, beautifully. And I'm thinking, so something like the bonus policy too. I mean, it's great to put a stake in the sand for that, and at the same time, you've been going since 2001. There've been some rocky times since then. So how have you weathered the storm with some of those putting people first policies, or has it really actually stood you in good stead rather than bitten you on the bum?
Look, I won't lie. It has been challenging at times. Yeah, absolutely has been challenging. And, the GFC was a particularly challenging time, and I had to make some very conscious decisions, or we did as a management team at the time, make some very conscious decisions then. And that was actually the early days of us going, that when times are tough, and particularly GFC and recruitment, I remember people were changing bonus or taking bonus away from people or reducing bonus that people are paid, and totally understand why you would want to make that decision. But with my placing people first hat on, I went, hang on, if we make it harder for people to earn money, look, what would that make me do as a person? So how about if I make it almost better or easier for people to earn money and put some things into place to make it better for people? Would that actually give them the motivation that they need to go, oh, actually, I can do this. I can actually still earn some good bonus or earn some good money and take home the good standard of living that I'm used to. So I was kind of looking at it from that lens, and I absolutely believe that helped us retain people, and we did the same with COVID, to be fair, and COVID was in some ways a lot worse than the GFC because COVID was so new and really took everybody by surprise, and obviously with lockdown and not being able to go into the office and all of those things, for many companies. It has been challenging, but I do believe, if you actually put that placing people first hat back on, and you do consider your people, and you've had a culture of that for a long time, I could actually be brought to tears very easily by talking about how my team got behind me through COVID and went, oh my God, how can we support you in the business? What do we need to do? Do you need to reduce our salaries? Hold on to our bonus. What can we do? We'll work for nothing if we need to, Nikki. There was many conversations that I had until we can get through this. Incredible. So, I think us having that as a philosophy and having those kind of relationships with the team, when it came to the really tough times like that, stood us in good stead. And I think just reminded myself and my leadership team, okay, we are doing the right things. These are the right things to do. And, placing profit over people, which is easy to do and the norm for many organizations. And I totally understand why that is too. I think it certainly put us in good stead. It really did. And anyway, we're still here and doing well and doing better. So it works.
Wow. Oh, I've got so many questions coming in my head from what you've just said. Let me just write that profit one down. Something when you were speaking, something that came to me was you have an external philosophy in recruitment, basically your branding and your tagline of placing people first. Yeah. And then you've got your internal philosophy of putting people first. Was that that conscious alignment externally and internally? Or did you just come up with a really good tagline? And how has that come about? And the reason I asked that question is that I think the more transparent organizations are, or the more we see into organizations, you can see the ones where the external philosophy is not aligned with the internal philosophy, and it's really impacting their culture. And I think that's the angle that I'm coming from. So I'm just curious about just that alignment and how you make that happen.
Yeah, and look, it's a great question because if I go back to the early days of the business, and we've evolved, and certainly we've evolved for the better over the years and learned a lot, as you do, continue to learn, still learning every day, still adjusting and learning to try and build the best business that we can. But in those early days, we didn't have that as a philosophy or a tagline necessarily. It was how I thought about stuff in the early days, but it was actually never articulated. And, those people who know me, I am not a wordsmith. I am not a words person at all. You have a conversation with me, great. I'll chit chat with you all day, but I'm not a words kind of, I'm very good at articulating something. If you ask me to write a letter or an email or something, I'm like, I struggle with that. That's not my strength. I'm a numbers girl. I'm good with numbers and I'm good with hugs. But so we didn't articulate. The point is we didn't actually articulate the people before profit until well into our journey. It was probably, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years ago, something like that. And we were actually working with somebody on our brand and our marketing. And it's actually came through then. And once I'd started to think about, it was about, well, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do stuff? What makes you happy? What is it about you and business? Why are you creating this? So it was through all those conversations that it actually came to light, those 3 words, placing people first, really. It was people before profit initially, but we changed it to placing people first because having the profit in that made it be more about the profit. It kind of put too much.
I hear you. Yeah.
There's too much on the profit word. So placing people first. And then as the more we thought about it and talked about how we liked it, it was like, well, that absolutely applies for us as an organization internally and externally. And it's got to start internally, surely. Yeah. We were already doing that because that was the conversation. We were already doing it internally. But of course, it's our outward facing philosophy as well, of course. And it always has been too, really. So it's actually interesting how it actually came about. It wasn't we sat hard and tried to work out something that sounded funky and groovy and would attract people to us. It was really just finding a way to articulate who we already were and what we were about and what we were doing. Yes. And as I say, I'm not a words person, so I struggle with those things.
Wow. Yeah, I'm so glad we've already gone off the beaten track of any questions that I put to you in advance. But I'm so glad that we are, because something else that you just said has got me thinking as well. You said, I'm a numbers person and I'm a hugs person. And this sort of, it took me back to, and if I can share a little story from my management career, as when we were doing, Myers-Briggs type indicators. So we were doing sort of, personality profiling. And I was in a team of 10, and all of my other peers had an extreme preference for numbers, logic, rationale. And they used to call me Mother Teresa because I was at the other end of the continuum. And I remember the facilitator saying, you absolutely need that balance. And I loved what you said about, you can coin that numbers and hugs, and how you balance that. Because the business has to survive, the business has to thrive. And in order to thrive, it needs to make money. And you've got to love your people. And I'd love to just unpack that a little bit more about, is that, how has that been for you? Is it really easy? Is it challenging? Is it personality based? I'm just talk to me.
Oh dear. Well, I suppose one of the things is, whenever I've had psych testing done with me, is they go, I do actually have a bit of everything in my personality, in my strengths. I'm a fairly even. I've got good this, good that, good that, and the other. And I say that I'm not a words person, but many people will go, actually, you're not too bad at all, Nikki. You're beating yourself up there. But when I think about myself now and who I am well known in the organisation for being a numbers person. I am a logical thinker. I'm an ideas person. I'm the innovator. I'm the inspiration person. I'm the person who annoys the crap out of my executive team because they've got one too many ideas on a daily basis. I will let you know. They love them, but they hate them because they're the ones who've got to implement them. Yes, I am that person, and I do use the numbers to help me make my decisions, to help me even make my people-centered decisions. I do use the numbers too, so I do need to have a balance of both. And I love the numbers. I could spend all day happily in a spreadsheet. It's one of my favourite things to do. I get really excited when it's budget time. I'm
so glad we're all so different.
I do. I love it. But I absolutely am a people person, and I love people. And I'm actually not probably the best recruiter out there, because that could be because I actually think everybody's wonderful, and I think everybody deserves an opportunity, and everybody deserves a fantastic role, and meaningful work has become our more recent mission in terms of what we're trying to do in the world of work and the world of recruitment, because I see the best in everybody and I see the good in everybody, and I really want everybody to succeed. And I do find that, even when people are actually not performing that well and they don't really want to perform that well, they've lost their mojo on something. Yeah. I'm trying to support them to get them there, when there's sometimes people are like, actually, no, it's time for me to go. And I need to do something else now, because I don't know if this is really for me, and I'm still trying to give them a leg up and help them, because I just really love people and believe in everybody. And I see the real people in all of the people that work for me. And I'm an absolute hugger. That is so true, and I'm trying. It's really, really hard with COVID, hasn't it, really?
Oh, yes.
And I did that yesterday. I went into the Byron office here, and I laugh because as soon as I walk in, the team all, jump up. Oh, hi, they see me every week, and they all still come up and give me a big hug every week. And it's so lovely. I mean, how lovely is that? But I have to be conscious because, of course, not everybody loves hugs.
Wonderful. Thank you. And again, just picking up on something that you said there, that I'd love to hear more about is around meaningful work. And I suppose starting off really with it, in your business as recruitment, how are you, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Is it a case of educating your clients for the people that you're finding for them around the concept of meaningful work? Is it that your candidates are demanding it? Where are we? Because it's so important.
It is, yeah. And actually, look, it's both, Claire. It's both. And, that, again, this is one of those things that came up, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We were talking about, okay, again, it was the conversation. What are we doing? What are we here to do? What's our purpose? what's our strategy? You know, where's our value? You know, we were just sort of rethinking through all of those things as part of our strategy. And I now remember the conversation, and there's so many things in there, but I was like, you know what, we really do exist to help people find meaningful work. And we also exist to help organizations find people and give them meaningful work. And it started with that. And that sparked something with everybody and went, oh my gosh, that is really what it is. You know, this isn't about placing people in a job or just finding a candidate. So there's so much more than that. And what we do, you know, we really do feel that as a recruitment business, we try and do it differently. We try and do it with meaning. You know, we make sure that it's with the right values of, you know, we want to place candidates in the right role for them, you know, the role that does give them meaningful work, and whatever meaningful work might mean to them, it's different for everybody.
Exactly.
You know? And so it's identifying those things and matching that up with the right organizations, and not placing them in a job just because, you know, they think they should go to the next stage of their career. So, you know, for us as a business, I've always said we need to be more than just place people in a job. You know, we need to be listening. We need to be asking them the right questions so we can really understand, you know, what they've learned so far in their career and where they're going and what's going to make them really happy rather than just another job.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. But of course, you know, soon the realization is that you can't just do that by talking to the candidates, you know, and I do feel it's our role to inspire the businesses that we work with and we aspire to working with. So we're still on that journey. You know, we're still on that journey as to all of the different things that we can do and want to do to really support this meaningful work initiative across clients and organizations. So there's an awful lot of exciting things that are coming in the next 12 months, which I won't go into. But yeah, you know, it's really important stuff. And we do have an app that's on the website, so it's free. You know, I'm not spruiking our business here. You know, go in if anybody wants to know a little bit more about themselves personally and their desire for meaningful work. There's an app on our website. You can do a survey, and it gives you a really fantastic report. So yeah, it's from me. It goes back to, how do you help people, and how do you place people first before profits, and how do you, you know, what can we do to really support that and make a big difference? Because, you know, we as a recruitment business, the best things in the world are when people come back to us and go, thanks, you've made the world of difference to me. You know, this has been life-changing. And people do regularly, you know, when you pick the phone up to offer somebody a job and they burst into tears and go, oh my God, I can't believe it. Thank you so much. You know, that's what makes our job. Yeah. You know, that's the important stuff. And meaningful work is really our way of articulating that, I suppose. And
I'm thinking, so picking up on what you said about meaningful work means different things to different people. So if you're working with a client that's, I'm trying to think of a better example than manufacturing and widget making, but, you know, that they produce products, and it may be widgets or what have you, and it's not immediately evident of what that meaningful work is. How do you help them see where the meaning is, either whether it's the client that you're working with or the candidate that you're working with? How do you bring that meaning to life and contextualize it for people?
Yeah, that's a great question, because often people think meaningful work, oh yeah, that must mean go work for a charity, you know? And look, Beaumont People are really well known for the work that we do in the charity sector. It's, I don't know, 40%, 50% of our business maybe at the moment. So it's only half of what we do. It has become a big part of what we do because of the way we do it. But it's not necessarily about the product or what the company does. It could be part of it for some people. And, you know, for some people, they do go work for a charity because they're very passionate about, let's say, animals and wild animals or whatever, you know. So there is meaning in that way. There is meaning for the cause. There's meaning for the purpose that connects people, you know, but meaning could mean, you know, many other things. So meaning for, let's take me, for example, you know, meaningful work for me is seeing the people within my business thrive, seeing them be really happy in the role that they do and feeling successful and feeling job satisfaction from the job that they do. So, meaningful work for some people could be that. And that could be, recruitment. There's lots of examples of how that could be meaningful for people, when you change people's lives through the world of work. But meaning can also be, in my leadership group, I've got people who do lots of different types of roles, and, people who create new innovative products that they take to market that help businesses change. That's meaningful work for something else. And meaningful for somebody else might be having a role where you can bring in good money for your family and pay the bills and, clothe your kids in an environment where you can still take your kids to school and pick them up at the same time. That too is meaningful work, so that's what I mean by, I think it's different for everybody, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on, the company or the product, but it does have to be on how the company supports or even helps think about how to make that work meaningful, or even understands it so that you hire the right people into the right roles in the first place.
Absolutely. And that sort of brings me on to, we mentioned in the beginning, in the introduction, about that very early on in 2020, as an organisation, you implemented the 4-day work week. And I think that's very much linked to meaning and what was important for your people. But I'd love to hear if you can share a bit of the story about, what prompted it? How did the decision come about? And how, as an organisation, did you make that decision? And how's it turned out for you?
Yeah, that's true. We launched the 4-day week early in 2020, really just before COVID came and slapped us all on the face. But where did it come? Look, the inspiration came from at the Thriving Workplace Conference that you and I were at recently, where we hugged. I'm quite sure we did.
We did.
The inspiration came from seeing Andrew Barnes from Perpetual. Is it Perpetual Mutual? Perpetual. I'll leave it at Perpetual. Over in New Zealand, seeing him speak, and he'd launched the 4-day week very recently. This was about 3 years ago. And I just heard his story and saw him speak. And I think I stood up and started clapping because I was just like, yes, I love this. So from the very minute that I heard what he was trying to do in his organisation, I was like, yes, I love this and I would love to implement this. I can so see the benefits of why you would do it and what I could do with it. So that's where the inspiration came from. The decision-making process, wow, well, it's a hard one, I probably have 2 to 3 conversations every week with organizations that want to pick my brains about the 4-day week.
Okay.
But, and I always say to people, the decision-making process for me, and I learned this from Andrew Barnes, it was one of the things I picked up from hearing him speak, was he went to his team and went, I've got this idea about the 4-day week. I have no idea how it's going to work. So perhaps you can tell me how it's going to work. And you know what? That was one of the best pieces of advice. So the decision-making for us was very similar.
Genius.
Go to the team and go, I'd love this to happen. But I don't honestly know how it's going to work. And if it's going to work, let's be honest, you're the ones who are going to have to make it work.
Yeah.
So you tell us how you think it can work, and then we'll give it a trial. And if we can make it work, we'll keep going with it. If we can't, we can't. You know what? You've got to try some of these things. I'm good with trying new things. I've got quite a high appetite for risk, should we say. Not everybody is. There are many people who don't feel like that. And I've certainly got some in my business. That's okay. You need to have everybody to make things work. But really, we utilize the whole team to go, you tell us how it will work. So that's where the decision process came in, absolutely making it inclusive. And I'm a firm believer in that anyway. That in itself has taught me many things in my organization over the years.
And when you say inclusive, are you talking the whole company sitting down together, or you had a focus group, or?
Yes, initially we had the whole company sit down together and we broke them into groups and went, why won't this work? What do we need to consider? Why will it work? What's the benefits, etc.? What's the downside? So we did that as a whole company initially. And then we actually said to people after, okay, who wants to be in a focus group? And so we allowed the focus group from there, and then we got teams to support it. So it did take us 6 months before we implemented, because I'm the leader that goes, that's a great idea. Should we do it tomorrow? But luckily, I have other very good leaders in my business that go, there's a few things we might need to think about, Nikki, before we implement that, hey? So we just slow down a little bit. And so it did take us 6 months to implement it. And also we had Christmas in the middle, and Christmas is always a funny time when, lots of people take leave, and we didn't feel confident to actually start it when we'd actually got half the people out of the business on leave anyway. So we started it in February of 2020. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we did.
And again, so I'm throwing you so many curveball questions today. Any other ideas, innovations, or strategies that are shareable that your people have come up with, either to make work more meaningful or to improve? I'd hate the word work-life balance, but their quality of life. Anything you can share?
I think before the year before we did the 4-day week, we did the gender neutral parental leave scheme. So that was, this is nearly 4 years ago now.
Wow.
So to pull off a fully gender neutral, no primary carer, secondary carer, parental, paid parental leave scheme was quite a feat. It's something I've been wanting to do for years. I am an early adopter. I am an ideas person, as I said. So for years I've been going, we need to do this. I just don't know how, I don't know how this is going to work. And in an organization with, let's be honest, 90% female participation. There's a fair argument for saying, much as we are an organisation of placing people first, we do have to be careful not to, to create policies that's going to make us bankrupt in the first 2 years. So it was something I'd wanted to do for years, and it took me a long time to work out how to do it. And that's where, luckily, it came back down to me being a figures brain and a spreadsheet, as well as being quite an inquisitive person, to go, okay, how can we make it work? Here we go. Finally found a solution to make it work. And then, look, let's be honest, when you've only got 10% of your workforce being of male gender, it did make it a little bit easier to make it gender neutral. That's continuing to change. And we've already had one person in the business take parental leave, who was the father. So that's wonderful, and that makes me happy. So that's one of the things that we've done. Yeah.
Great. So what is it about your culture that makes this work? Because there are so many organizations out there that are either have implemented things like this or are thinking about implementing things like this, and it's either fallen over or they're coming up against so many barriers. Tell us more about what makes it work for you in your culture, Nikki.
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I think our culture has evolved a lot over the years and continues to evolve for the better, which is great. I do believe in a continually evolving culture. And, when I think about that, the 4-day week does work for us for the most part. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it can be frustrating when you're trying to get people together, and trying to choose a day that works for everybody, particularly when you've got so many people on, so many flexible arrangements these days, and part-time and 4-day week and all sorts. So, but yeah, on the whole, yes, it does work. The things that we do genuinely well is, I think we support each other as human beings well, as teams, as a whole company. I think our care and love for each other is really very good as an organisation. So collaboration, working together, genuine understanding of the struggle to balance our busy lives is at the heart of who we are and what we do. We've definitely have to have a culture of personal accountability and responsibility. As leaders in the business, we absolutely need to have a culture of trust. And COVID has taught us that massively, which is wonderful. We have to trust that our people are doing what they should be doing. And hold on, someone's just looking at me through the window. Sorry. And then my dog goes.
I'm not going to edit this out. This is this is what I love about Rawthentic.
I'm just going to have to wave goodbye to that person. They're looking at me through the window. My dog's going off. So look, trust is a really important thing. And collaboration is, again, as I said, I think is key, because you can only make things like the 4-day week work if you all work together.
Yeah.
You can't have a culture of going, if you're going to have a day off, how's that going to impact me? It's got to be, we work together, we pull together here as a team. This is how we work. I think hopefully that answers the question.
And I suppose that's where, in a way, going back to the numbers, that if you're super clear on what the outcomes are, and if people are delivering to those outcomes, then how they go about it is to some degree up to them.
Absolutely spot on, Claire. Yes. Sort of implementing the 4-day week was one of the things that actually made us stop and think and evaluate what are we actually measuring people on, and measuring people on outcomes and measuring people on productivity rather than hours that they're in the office or hours that they're working or online or whatever is key. Yeah. It is absolutely key to making that work. And it's something it's been a philosophy of mine for years. I don't care what hours people work. I care about the outcomes. And, when people talk about implementing the 4-day week, I think one of your biggest struggles to implement it is determining what are measurable outcomes.
Yeah.
And what is measurable productivity across all sorts of different roles. That's actually sometimes one of the most challenging things. And at the beginning of launching the 4-day week, we were really quite strict about that, and we measured it really closely. While we were still sort of learning it all and testing it out. But as time's gone on, to be fair, we do kind of go, look, you're doing a great job. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. We're really happy with your work. I'm not actually looking too closely at all the measurables that we first had in place, because I just know that you're doing a good job. So, your 4-day week continues while you're doing a fab job. So that's kind of how it works for us currently.
And, we were sharing before we came live on the podcast about various leadership groups that you're a part of. Are you seeing a change? Are you seeing a move towards greater levels of trust and psychological safety? Or is there still a bit of work to be done?
I think probably, to be fair, the companies that I am working with in some of my leadership groups, they're there genuinely because they're already on that journey, or we're all on that journey already. And what, maybe I don't necessarily hear it vocalized so much if people are not on that journey, maybe because they know so much that that's where I sit, where my values sit. But I do know, certainly from the feedback that we get from candidates, in the recruitment business, we hear it all from the candidates. Of course we do. They come to us and go, I'm looking for another job because... And we know where they all work because, of course, that's part of our conversation, So, yes, we absolutely do hear that. But, and I think, let's be fair. I actually don't think there's necessarily always any intentional malice in that from leaders. Really, there isn't. It's more of that's kind of just how things always were. And, I could see people working, so that made me think that they were working just because I could see them. And obviously things have changed dramatically since then. But, I think sometimes those things happen just because of, it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, give people the tools to do the job. And if you don't give leaders the tools to do the job properly well, sometimes they're not going to get it quite right. And that, that's to be expected, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it goes back to that. I don't think, I have a saying that I don't think anybody comes into work to do a bad job.
No.
I think people come into work, they want to come into work and do a good job. Yeah. People actually want to do good work and know that they're doing good work. Yeah. But maybe sometimes they don't have the tools or the environment to do it.
Critical messages. Thank you. Oh, we're coming to the top of our time. I could talk to you all day. So actually, on that point, I mean, and thank you for being so honest and transparent and answering all my questions that weren't on the list. If this is sort of really speaking to, the somebody listening to this conversation and saying that this is what I want, I want, whether it be a focus on meaningful work or a 4-day work week or whatever element of putting people first, placing people first it is. What could be, a piece of advice, a nugget, besides all the other ones that you've just given, what would you suggest that they focus on to help make that move?
Yeah. Okay. Look, I mean, I think if you really want to change the way that you lead your team or your organization, and there's things that you go, okay, yeah, absolutely. There's, I'm inspired by those things. Then, make a conscious decision to do it, but be clear on your why. Why you want to do it. I would say involve your leadership team. If that's relevant, involve the other people around you on that journey, because, myself as a founder and CEO, I can't implement these things myself.
Yeah.
It needs everybody, it needs all of us on the same journey together. It needs all of us understanding the value in placing your people first and what that means in everyday terms in part of your job. So it does involve the whole leadership team and the journey. And to give you some examples of things that we've done over the years to really help us continue in our journey and continue to learn. We're renovating at the moment, so there's now a big truck going past my window. So I apologise.
All good.
So what I was saying, some of the things that we've done to learn is, be part of leadership groups. I run a leadership group up here in the Northern Rivers called Leaders for Impact. So, having a group of peers that you can learn from and share with is always good in any leadership journey, whether it be placing people first or anything that you're doing. So be part of a leadership group, maybe get a mentor. Learn and research. There's lots of books. There's a book called The 4-Day Week. There's lots of books about culture. And in fact, I've had 2 books that we've been featured in over the past 6 months, actually, really. 3 books are all up now, which is very exciting.
You've got to send me the details and I'll put them on the show notes.
Okay, I will. So, there's some great books. And I will be honest, I'm actually not a great business book reader. But there are some great things out there, obviously, as well as podcasts. One of the other great things we did, I think it must be about 3 or 4 years ago, was we aspired to be one of the best places to work or great places to work. And, it never been even a thought or a consideration. And I think it was only 1 year I was, looking at the top 20 financial review or whatever it was, best places to work. And I was like, wow. Wouldn't it be great one day to be one of those? Never even in my wildest dreams that we could be one of those organisations. Mind you, perhaps never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd live on 120 acres of mountain but here we are. But anyway, we decided about 4 years ago, I decided that why don't we actually put ourselves forward for one of those? Because, obviously we're not going to get in the top 20 or even the top 50, but the process in itself we'll learn from. We'd won a few awards of different things, so we'd learn from. So we did apply, and we did learn a lot through the application process. Lots of questions that are asked of you that you go, oh, Well, that's a good question. I've never thought about that before. So that as a process in itself is a great way of learning. And, you know, lo and behold, that first year that we applied, we actually did get to be number 9, which was completely unexpected and incredible. And I think I was on a high for about 6 weeks.
Oh, my goodness.
I finally came down. And then last year, we applied again, even though the conversation was, we'll never get better than number 9. I mean, come on, you know, like, that's it. Let's just not apply again and leave it at that. And I'm like, no. We've got to apply because, you know, we can still learn from this. You know, the process is good. There's all those questions, etc. And we came second in one category and joint first in another.
Blooming heck.
I know. And I still go, well, little old us. We did that. Wow.
You know, you'll never be first.
I know. So, yeah, I know. But that in itself is actually a great learning.
Yes.
It really is a great learning. And I'm very proud of what we achieved there. And we've still got heaps to achieve. You know, yeah, we've done some great stuff. We have still got so much to do and so much to learn, Claire. You wouldn't believe. Well, that's what I hear in my brain.
And that's what I can hear in your voice, Nikki. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. There's so many rich elements in this. And I loved that finishing off with the best place to work, because as you say, the process, those questions, to go really deep down and honest in each of those questions and say, oh, right, to what extent do we or don't we do that? And the leadership groups, I couldn't agree more. So finally, how can people connect with you? Is it okay for me to pop your LinkedIn details on the show notes and your website where people can do the meaningful work questionnaire?
Yep. You can share all of those. So obviously go on our website, definitely connect with myself on LinkedIn. The Beaumont People do lots of wonderful things to support. So, you know, through the Beaumont People LinkedIn, through the website, you'll find there's heaps of support and resources and things like that are just value adds that we're happy to give away. You know, so there's stuff there. But yeah, by all means, as I say, I speak to people regularly about things like this. So, you know, I'm very happy. I'm very much of a sharer, and, you know, I love to inspire other people to be the best leaders that they can be, and, you know, support people in their journey just as people have supported me in my journey over the years.
And we didn't even get to the amazing partnering that you're doing with charities. I think you're going to have to come back and we'll do podcast number 2.
Well, yes, actually, because we may well have a very big announcement on that coming up very shortly.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we'll keep people in suspenders, as we used to say in the UK. Nikki, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure you've probably got to rush off now and do 1,001 things. So go well, stay safe, and all the very best.
All right. Thanks so much, Claire. It's been really lovely chatting to you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for listening, and we hope that this conversation provided the insights and inspiration that you were looking for. Did you know that Raw Authentic Leadership is currently ranking 8th in the top 25 Australian leadership podcasts? You can help us get to number 1 by heading over to Apple iTunes and doing 3 quick things: subscribing, giving us a positive rating, and writing a short review. This is the most effective way for us to get the key messages around 21st century leadership out into the business community. And before you go, if you or your people are needing to boost their resilience muscle and master thriving in change, then please head over to the Brain Smart website and take a look at our Dealing with Change and Building Resilience program. The website is brain-smart.com. Go well, stay safe, and keep listening and learning.